Welcome back to Hair Transplant Class, episode 13, and in this episode, we're going to be exploring the top 3 myths about topical finasteride. Yeah, it's riveting stuff, topical finasteride, but it happens to be one of the more commonly discussed or asked about subjects in my email, my inbox. I get every day, actually, I get emails from people asking about topical finasteride, about the side effects, about where to get it, all kinds of questions. And I'm also reading a lot more about it online, and even in YouTube or on YouTube, there are more and more people talking about it. Well, the problem with what a lot of this information tells you is that it's wrong. So I compiled the top 3 myths about topical finasteride, and we're going to bust them right here. Now, the first myth has to do with the side effects surrounding topical finasteride. Now, we're not going to be getting into what the side effects actually are. I actually made a video, a previous hair transplant class about finasteride, my own experience, and what, talking about side effects, all that good stuff. You can click here and watch that video to get up to speed. But probably the most common thing I'm hearing from patients, besides asking about side effects, what are they or are there any, is that people are telling patients, and by people I mean doctors and even pharmacists, are telling patients that there are no side effects with topical finasteride, and that is absolute horseshit. The reality of side effects with topical finasteride is that there are side effects that occur from topical finasteride. They're just not as severe, usually, as the side effects that you'll get from oral finasteride, be it Propecia, Proscar, or just the generic version called finasteride. And when I've explained this to people, they ask me, well, Joe, they tell me that it doesn't get in the bloodstream and that's what causes the side effects. That's not entirely true, because if you can get something to absorb into the skin, there's a high chance some of it will go systemic and get into your bloodstream and deliver it to... So while some people are having side effects that are reduced, again, usually, compared to side effects from oral, it also goes hand in hand with the fact that results from topical finasteride are usually not as strong as you'll get from oral finasteride. In other words, if you're taking an oral medication of any kind and then you switch to a topical version of it, you're not going to get the same results, negative or positive. And this points to DHT reduction being the source of side effects specifically, as opposed to how DHT is reduced, be it orally or topically. Because I think it's pretty safe to say that we're not reducing DHT as much topically as we are orally. That's a whole nother discussion, but I think it's interesting. Myth number 2 about topical finasteride is that all topical finasteride is the same. In other words, a lot of people think that there is some sort of standard formulation, that there's some sort of standard list of ingredients and the amount of ingredients to be able to call it topical finasteride, and that's simply not true. The fact about topical finasteride is that it has various ingredients based on which compounding pharmacy is creating it. Now, I specifically said compounding pharmacy because those are the only kinds of pharmacies where you can actually get topical finasteride. I'll get more into that later, but when you're having this formulated, and it's usually at the request of a doctor who's got some ideas about what should go in it, or a pharmacy has been forethinking enough to where they decide to come up with their own, should topical finasteride be requested. There are multiple different ingredients that can go into topical finasteride, including not just finasteride, but most of them are mixed in with minoxidil, and it can be 2.5%, it can be 5%, it can be 10%, or even 15% minoxidil. There is also some formulations that have latanoprost, which is the active ingredient in Latisse, which helps our eyelashes grow longer, if you want. And another ingredient that can go into topical finasteride is retinol A, which can help with hair loss as well. I mean, all these things and more that can help reduce DHT or fight hair loss somehow can be mixed into a formulation and sold with prescription only. So myth number 2, that there is a standard formulation for topical finasteride, is busted. Busted! And the third myth about topical finasteride is that you can only get it from a small select group of doctors or pharmacies. Absolutely false. The fact of the matter is that you can get a prescription for topical finasteride from any doctor that can write a prescription for anything else. But more specifically, and there might be state regulations or provincial regulations that kind of narrow this down, but your family doctor can write a prescription for topical finasteride, your dermatologist can write a prescription for topical finasteride, and of course your hair transplant doctor or hair loss specialist can write a prescription for topical finasteride. In fact, a physician's assistant can write a prescription for topical finasteride. A nurse practitioner can write a prescription for topical finasteride. Are you following me here? Are you getting the point? And on the flip side of that, any compounding pharmacy can create topical finasteride. Now, how many compounding pharmacies can there be? I mean, it's not something that we hear about all the time, but there's actually 56,000 compounding pharmacies in the United States alone, and 7,500 of those compounding pharmacies are recognized or classified as advanced, I think that's what it's called, advanced compounding pharmacies, where they have the ability to make really complex formulations that some other compounding pharmacies just don't have the tools and equipment to do. But that's not the point. The point is that you find a doctor that can write a prescription for topical finasteride, pair that up with basically any compounding pharmacy, boom, you've got your topical finasteride. But there are pharmacies out there today that have a regular flow of requests and a regular flow of prescriptions coming in to where they've got it down to a science. They know which ingredients they're going to be using. They've studied it, they're using it. But the point is that these things are everywhere. And if you find one such pharmacy, you don't have to have a prescription from a specific doctor. They just write you a prescription. You can go to any pharmacy you want. The choices are almost endless, or they'd seem to be. But the point being, if you ask someone that's talking about topical finasteride and they're even trying to send you to their doctor for a $200 Skype consultation just to get a prescription for topical finasteride, and they're not telling you where they're getting the topical finasteride, well, you don't have to go to that pharmacy. You can go to any other pharmacy. Or if you find out where that pharmacy is, you can get the prescription from any doctor. You see where I'm going with this? In other words, if someone's telling you that you have to go to a specific doctor, but they're not telling you where the pharmacy is, where they're getting their own, there might be some sort of, I don't know, financial arrangement for, I'm not saying anything, I don't know. But the point is, it's kind of sketchy. So you know the facts now. The myth is busted. You don't have to go to specific doctors, like a small group of doctors that have this secret formula. It's all over the place. Do a Google search. You'll find topical finasteride from all kinds of different pharmacies. You'll see people talking about it. And pretty much any doctor doing hair transplant surgery today, if they're not writing prescriptions for topical finasteride yet, they will be soon. So that's it. Top 3 myths about topical finasteride, and all 3 have been busted. Busted! I hope this is not a 22-minute video. I think I've been able to shorten it, but I hope that it was enjoyable and, more importantly, useful for you when it comes to your search for topical finasteride if you decide you want to try it. So if you like this video, click like down below, and if you haven't subscribed, what the hell is wrong with you? Please subscribe. You'll get updates. Actually, you need to click the bell. I think there's a bell now. You gotta click that. So many things to click, but that will help to make sure that you get notifications when the next video in this series or any video on the Hair Transplant Mentor channel is uploaded for your viewing pleasure. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next hair transplant class video coming up, hopefully sooner rather than later. Peace!